getting set to talk to that man, the Natalie attired PJ Fleck. And what a year of transition it was in year one for PJ Fleck. Just 5 wins for the Gophers, some offensive struggles. Quarterback spot's going to continue to be a bit of a question mark. Need to replace some production up front on D, but a lot of enthusiasm, a great new facility, lots to be excited about in the Twin Cities. And PJ Fleck, the head coach of the Gophers, joining us right now. Coach, welcome.
We got to update that picture. I had hair back then. I say back then.
That's your problem, Coach. You shaved it.
Heather told me you might as well shave it before people sit there and say, you better shave it. Or you should shave it.
You always got to get ahead of the game.
That's exactly what I did.
No, yes.
Just get rid of it.
5 wins in your first season. It was a transition year. And you said coming in that it was going to be a transition year and that total might go down a little bit from where you took over. But what were the biggest things you took out of year one as the Minnesota head coach?
Well, I'm really proud of our players. Year one is a learning year. Any new coach that comes into a program and you take over, everything's new, whether that's winter conditioning, spring ball, summer workouts, training camp, the season, the systematic approach, all new coaches, all new fundamental techniques. Everything's new. And we came in at a very tumultuous time. I mean, it wasn't exactly the easiest time to come in and take a job. And so there was a lot of change, a lot of transition. But I'm really proud of our players, what they learned throughout the course of the year. Year two is a little bit different because now you start to master those things. You have players that already know what to expect so they can start teaching other players. And once you start get to a point, Coach, you know this, that it's a player-led team, you're going to win a lot more games. And you're going to have a better foundation, and your culture is just going to take off. We're not there yet, but we are continually develop that. We're going to be a really young and inexperienced team. We have 9 seniors on scholarship on offense and defense and 14 on offense and defense as juniors. So, again, not excuses. It's exactly where we are. It's exactly where we're supposed to be, and you're going to see this influx of young talent come into the Golden Gophers this year.
Give us a sense of the depth of certain positions you feel good about and maybe the ones that are a little bit behind.
Yeah, Coach, good question. Quarterback, I'm not really sure. We have 2 freshman quarterbacks. One of those guys are going to play. One redshirt freshman, Tanner Morgan. Really excited about him. He did a lot with his high school team. Took him from 1-11 all the way to 2 straight semifinals. He knows how to rebuild a program. He's a connector. He's a leader. Whoever can win the team will win that job. Zach Annexsted's the other quarterback who played at IMG. Phenomenal competitor. All he's done is make people look silly in terms of their ahead of him, and he always beats them out and wins. Wide receiver's a position. We have Ty Johnson. Everybody knows that. But when you look around this year and you look right and left, there's going to be a freshman over there, a freshman over there, and a freshman over there. Offensive line, probably some freshmen playing up there as well. And then when you look on defense, our 2 deep is going to be 3 freshman linebackers, backing up 3 guys that are playing for us now. Our secondary is going to be littered with freshmen back there. And then especially up front, defensively, we'll have some freshmen littered in the mix as well. So we have a lot of positions. Last year, it was one of those years that you kind of had some older players. But they've played a lot. They've had 3 head coaches in 5 years. And then they moved on. Well, now we have depth. It's just not a lot of experience depth yet. We've got to create that.
The expectation is still going to be there, whether it's freshmen or seniors. But does it change the way maybe you teach, maybe you install when you have younger guys that are going to have to be a big part of this team?
Yeah, the expectation is always going to be there. We're always going to want to win. Just because we're young and inexperienced, I don't want people to think, well, he doesn't think we're going to win. Mm-hmm. Second year at Western Michigan, we were able to flip it, and we won 7 straight. There's an aha moment that'll take over at some point. We'll be young and inexperienced. That doesn't mean we're not going to be talented. This is one of the greatest recruiting classes in Minnesota history that has now joined us. 2019 will help us because we're a top 25 class there as well. And now all of a sudden you start to see this youth movement and this talent movement into the Twin Cities that we're really excited about for the future. But right now, we want to win now. But we're not going to just sacrifice making things that hurt us long-term right now just to be able to cover up some holes. That's the hardest part as a head coach because you're still making long-term decisions that you know where you can be. You have to make those now, but you still want to win now.
You're not short on unique ideas. This pass rushing coach, part of the 10th coach thing, how did that idea come about, and what else does that coach do other than, obviously, his specialty being a pass rush specialist?
Well, Coach, good question. You know this, that when you are a head football coach and maybe things aren't where they need to be, you've got to show your team you're going to address the issues at hand, right? And when we were 1-11 at Western Michigan, we needed to change some things and make things better, whether they were, not changing coordinators and systems, but changing little things to make sure players know we're addressing that issue. And so over time, it hit and it took off. I didn't think we rushed the passer very well at all last year. And we had to bring 8 people just to be able to get pressure on the quarterback. We exposed a lot of people in the pass game. We don't want to be able to do that every single play. So I wanted our team to know, hey, we're going to get after the quarterback. Right. We're going to get a pass rush this year somehow, some way. How are we going to do that? We're going to hire Marcus West out of Austin Peay, a team that really is a very unique story in terms of nationally of turning around a program that's really been dormant for a lot of years, and bringing him in here and strictly working pass rush with linebackers that'll be blitzing, secondary members, working with our D-line and our rush ends. He has been awesome. Tons of energy, young coach, great recruiter. The 3 coaches we brought in have all brought a shot in the arm with energy, believe it or not, into our program that might not need it. It just got even more with the coaches we brought in.
One of the things you talked about was off the field, really being able to connect with the community, whether that's the business side or whether that's even getting more involved in the Boys and Girls Clubs. I know what's happening on the field. How's that going for you as far as integrating the team into the community?
Well, we talk about our program. It's a holistic approach, right? Academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually. Academically, we've had the 3 highest GPA semesters in the history of our football program. The first 3 we've actually been here. There's a lot of systems we've implemented into that with our academics. Socially, kids are not perfect, but what we have to do is we've created programs that take society's issues, brings them in a very safe environment, and then we're able to let our culture eat those societal issues, spit it back out as our culture, so we can now make a difference. Our players were very... They came up to me, put it this way. They're like, Coach, we're way over our hours, Coach. Like, we got to be over our hours. I say, guys, off the field teaching, educating, classroom stuff that we're teaching you, the Gopher for Life program, to become a better man. That doesn't count for your hours, just so you're aware of that. We're not in football meetings. This is to help you become a better man. But we've implemented a ton of systematic approaches to be proactive, to have our players become the men we want them to become. But trust me,
we're over.
Listen, we're like in 40 hours. I understand the hour, fluff an hour here and there, but come on, you're making it obvious.
Sounds like another union fight to me, man.
The stuff that is on the field, offensively, how do you become more potent?
We have to be more consistent, period. One thing we can control is that we've got to take care of the ball, and we've got to get turnovers. If you win the turnover battle, whether that's a National Football League, Collegiate Football League, or collegiate football, high school football, 50 years of study, you'll win 78% of the time if you could just win that turnover battle. So you'll see us with 78 shirts and things like that, especially with an immature young team that hasn't played a ton of football. Coach, how can we win? Let's take care of what we can control. We've got to be able to do that first. Execution's got to go way up, which, again, when you have a young team who hasn't played together, that's always a concern. But if we can execute, and we can execute at a high level, I think we'll be fine.
Similarities and differences between year 2 at Minnesota and year 2 at Western Michigan.
Youth. We started 18 true freshmen our second year at Western Michigan University, and that was the same group that led us to the Cotton Bowl. And so this is very similar. Now, I will say, playing freshmen in the MAC versus playing freshmen in the Big Ten, it's a major difference in the strength, the mentally, physically, emotionally development of players. But that's what we're going to do. And we're not going to get off our process of becoming a champion. We're not going to get off of that. No matter what anybody says, no matter if it says you have to win, we are going to go through every process that we know how to do it the right way, to build this cultural sustainability. 3 head coaches in 5 years. If you look at everybody in this room who's won at a very high, consistent level, they have cultural sustainability. They've had that coach for a long time, or that tradition for a long time, and that's how they've won. And when you constantly move that, you constantly change that, these kids go through divorces just like you would with your family or your wife or kids. That's 3 and 5 years. That's hard to swallow.
New redshirt rule.
Sorry, go ahead, Howard.
New redshirt rule. How will you guys implement it? Is it a strategy to it? We look at it from that?
It couldn't have happened in a better year. For us, we are like, this is a blessing. It's going to be perfect. There's 2 things. One, it's tremendous for us because we have so many freshmen. It gives you a creative way to run your roster, go throughout the year. But also, too, people don't talk about this enough. It creates a focus for the entire football team to always be locked in. You can be called up from AAA at any time. Yeah. So, when players start to see who's going to play and they start to look at themselves, sometimes they lose focus throughout the year. That can't happen. You strike 9 players out, you're coming up to the big leagues, boy. So if you have a good week in camp or a good week that year, come on, that week, come on up.
Your schedule appears to be conducive to a little bit of a fast start. How important is it for you guys to get a little bit of momentum?
I think it's incredibly important. We just have to continue to get better every single week, especially when you have a youthful football team. The growth and development every single day is incredibly critical in all areas. But I think it's really important. You know, when we have New Mexico State to open the year, and they just won a bowl game for the first time in a very long time. Then you have in some polls a ranked Fresno State team that's coming into TCF Bank Stadium. Then you play Miami of Ohio, and if you look at Miami of Ohio from the MAC, they've been second in the league according to Western Michigan for years in terms of their recruiting. So it's a fast start for us, and then we get into conference play. But again, we just have to take one day at a time with this team. We don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. We want to do what they can do and push the envelope where we can push it, and just can become better every single day. And our new facilities allow us to do that in the holistic approach.
Yeah, give us a sense for the impact that the new facilities had.
Here's what I'll say. I've never met a recruit, Coach, you might be able to back this up, that just picked a place just on a facility. But here's what it does. It gives a wow factor to Minnesota. It helps in a huge way. And I think that's important for us as we continue to move forward, is when people come on campus, they never thought they loved Minnesota as much as they love it. And that's that wow factor that we were missing, that now we have, that we can tie to all the positive things in the Twin City area.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first impression is it helps recruiting. It helps your present team more.
It does.
You don't go to Minnesota or Northwestern because of a new facility. You go for other reasons.
When you have a nice facility to work in, it means it's important. People have put time and effort and money into what you're doing. And our players, I've seen a difference in our players, in the energy that they have when they walk into that building to want to be there. Not that they just have to be there. They want to be there, and they take care of it.
Head coach of the Golden Gophers, PJ Fleck, always a pleasure. Thanks a lot, Coach.
Appreciate it, guys. Roll the boat, Scotty Ma. Thanks.